It's time for The Local with your host and realtor, Katie McKinney.
Hey guys, Katie here, and welcome to The Local. Today we've got a special guest, and you probably know him if you are from the Woodward area, Woodward and greater area, Grant Walker. Grant, thanks for being here today.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. Grant and I, ever since I moved to Woodward, we've had a pretty good friendship. We've done a lot of business together, but we have a good time, don't we?
We do. Yes, we do.
And it's no fun to work when you don't have any fun, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you
might
gotta
as well have fun.
might as well have fun. But Grant, tell us a little bit. What do you do exactly?
Grant Walker from Great Plains National Bank here in Woodward, Oklahoma. I have kind of a hybrid job situation in the fact that I am the senior vice president at Great Plains Bank, as well as I am the mortgage loan officer there. So it keeps you pretty busy.
Busy, to say the least. If you have been around Grant a lot, he's usually running about 300 mile an hour, and he's got 40 people calling him at the same time. But he always makes you feel special when you are there, calling, or when you're there. He always is very attentive. So I appreciate that, Grant. I know you are busy, but you're very good at your job.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
A lot of good people to work with.
A lot of great people to work with.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you on that, most definitely. And how long have you been at that position?
I've been with Great Plains now for over 7 years, and before that I was at 3 or 4 different banks in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
I moved back here about 7 years ago.
Okay. And you say back here, were you born and raised around the area?
Born and raised in northwest Oklahoma.
Okay.
Our family, a ranching family from in the Freedom area.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather was the president of Woodward Savings and Loan. That is where MidFirst is now.
Oh, cool.
And so I graduated from Woodward High School and went to Northwestern and played football and baseball there.
Excellent. What degree did you get at Northwestern?
I was an English and political science degree
Oh,
major.
my goodness.
Yes.
See, that's where it's the English. You always know an English degree person because they're a little bit weird. I'm an English degree person, obviously. But we all get along pretty well because we have that.
That's right.
It's just something about them. Okay, that's neat. So,
Yes.
and it was kind of double major, English and political science.
Correct.
Okay. What did you do right out of college? Obviously, you moved back, right?
Right. And
Okay.
then I actually taught school here in Woodward and then moved to Oklahoma City
Okay.
and was in the real estate business, actually owned a real estate agency in Oklahoma City, and then became a loan officer for City Mortgage, and that took me to my first bank I worked at Bank 2, and then led to Security Savings Bank and Equity Bank, and then here we are.
And here we are. And you said when did you move back to Woodward? About how many years ago, do you think?
Right around 7 years now.
7 years.
6 years.
Okay.
I was in Oklahoma City working for Great Plains Bank for a while.
Quite a while, yeah.
Before I moved to here.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Okay, what kind of banking did you do? Obviously, real estate at some portion, but then has it always been the mortgage side?
For predominantly the mortgage side,
Okay.
and then when I moved back with Great Plains Bank, got into commercial and consumer lending.
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
Neat. Okay, and what is your favorite part of about being a mortgage lender here in Woodward,
Well,
or in general?
in general,
Yeah.
and this goes for all of banking.
Mhm.
The most important part of banking, I believe, and the most gratifying is working with that first-time home buyer.
Mm-hmm.
I've from the biggest commercial loans to truck loans to everything. They're all fun to work with, and
Mhm.
the people, but there's very few situations you get into when you're with that first-time home buyer you're closing, and it's their
Mhm.
first house, and it's really gratifying for everyone involved.
Yes.
And that's why it's probably the most gratifying and satisfying loan of anything we do.
I completely agree
Right.
with that. I mean, every closing is a great closing as
Mhm.
long as everything went pretty smoothly. But that first-time home buyer, there's just something special. There's a
Right.
sense of energy there that's not present during whenever it's a move up or
Mhm.
move down or whatever it might be. So I think that's a pretty awesome thing. So obviously we know a few of the misconceptions of mortgage lending, and specifically on the residential side. I kind of want to talk about because we do a lot of residential, together, mortgage loans, where I've got the buyer in a situation, and then you have the loan in that situation. Or your, what do you call it? Originating the loan?
Loans.
Originating the loan.
Correct.
But there's a few misconceptions I want to say. And what do you feel like? Just name a misconception you feel like, whether it be first-time home buyer or somebody, when it comes to buying a home, what's the first kind of misconception you think about?
Well, on misconceptions are in that home buying process. There's a lot of things that need to take place. A lot of first-time home buyers, they go, well, we can't qualify for a house, or we don't have enough credit. We haven't started credit. We don't have enough down payment money. There's a lot of things that go in. The 3 or 4 things that you got to look at are obviously credit score, debt to income ratios, your down payment and closing cost money, and then once you get past that, you're just looking at strength of the borrower and things like that underwriting will look at.
Right.
So we've got programs now that allow people to get in for zero down payments for first-time home buyers. We've got for people that are have some things in their past on credit. We've got some tools and some things that will get their credit back jumped to a place where they can get a really competitive rate, if not a great rate.
Right.
And so the misconceptions, I think, are with those home buyers, or those potential home buyers that think they can't qualify.
Right. I've got to have 20% down. That's what my parents told me, my grandparents told me. Got to have 20% down, and I got to have an 800 credit score.
That's right.
That's a misconception because they do have so many, great loan options nowadays. Now, it's not to say that, if you owe, a whole lot and you don't make a whole lot, or maybe you don't have a job at this time, that you're just going to go, that it's a free ride, because it is. It's actually kind of, it's not difficult to get approved, but there's a lot of different, steps that you have to go through.
Well, there is, and even those folks need to find out where they are. You don't know where you are until you go find out where you are.
Right.
And so if it's a debt to income ratio and they've got a little too much debt versus their income, we need to figure out where that is and make sure they get some of that paid off. It's not if you're ever going to get qualified for a home, it's when.
When, exactly.
And so,
sell the boat.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's saving some money. Maybe it's getting your credit score up. It's a combination of those things. So you come in, if it is unable to proceed and not an approve eligible on their findings, then we want to know why, and then we work towards that mission. Right. And you have folks that are in your pipeline, and it may be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year. Right. And that's part of that process that makes it even more gratifying for a lot of folks.
Definitely. Yeah, it's not just yes or no. It's how do we get there? And like you said, it's not if, it's when. Right. It may take a little bit longer for some. It may take, just a month, or maybe a small change, paying off that credit card bill, or, whatever. But selling the boat, like I mentioned. I don't know why, but everybody has a boat. I don't know, understand. They're like, debt to income's a little high. I'm like, okay. They go, yeah, we got a boat, we got an RV, we got 4 vehicles, and it's always kind of interesting, But again, it's not if, it's when.
That's right.
And what I really appreciate, about you, Grant, is that you take the time to say, all right, maybe not right now, but these are the steps that you can take in order to, or what we might recommend, in order to maybe reach that mission.
That's right.
And I think that's important because, buyers get, especially first-time home buyers, they get very discouraged when they go in and all they hear is no, 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 no. Well, that is kind of why I think a little bit of the thinking or the thought process is, no, I just can't do it. We don't have 20% down. I'm not even going to try. But when somebody calls me and says, I want to go look at that house, and I say, well, have you spoken with the lender at all? That's not to be that's not a rude question at all. And it's not meant to be offensive. It is to say simply, have you kind of touched base with your local lender, or a lender that you like, or maybe where you have an account at, that you feel comfortable with those people, and just kind of see where you're at. And don't you? I mean, you would recommend that be done.
A lot of people don't know any better than to do that,
Yeah.
and that is great advice. And you know that we've gone back on that debt to income ratio, talked about that, your income versus your debt, and that is the direct link to how much you can afford for a house.
Yeah.
So, you know, as opposed to looking at a $200,000 house or a $75,000 house or whatever, one needs to know where their affordability is, what
Yep.
their payment's going to be, what
Monthly. Yep.
what they you know is comfortable for their cost of living. So the easiest way to do that is get an application, fill it out, and meet with your banker, your lender, and at that point, you will know exactly the price of house you can afford and the payment.
Right.
So there's no shocks.
Right.
It allows a realtor to actually do their job and find the correct house for them.
Right.
And the process goes on, and that way, new home buyers, you know, even veteran home buyers need to come in and look at those procedures, and it just works out and makes the business
More smooth.
more smooth.
Yeah,
Yes.
it does. Well, and I think that's even again, you hit the nail on the head there, because a lot of times, you know, they say, well, we want to go look at this house, and I say that's fantastic. It's a fantastic home. If you haven't spoken with the lender, you may want to just touch base with them, see where you're at financially, because they may walk into that house and fall in love with it.
Right.
And they may have no business purchasing it due to a debt to income, or maybe just what they're comfortable with monthly, not living beyond their means. And so that actually does happen more often than you might think. And that's just, you know, again, that's what he said, just what you said, go check out. I mean, it's not, there's no obligation to get the loan, right? I mean, once you fill out an application, there's no obligation.
Well, once we pull credit and we look at some things with them, we help them with not only the home purchase, but maybe it's restructuring some debt and everything else to get to that point where everything works smooth in their whole financial portfolio.
Excellent. That's a good idea. And I mean, I know there's a lot of people that just don't know that there's help out there.
Right.
And, you know, there are people out there like you that just want to help and want to make sure that everybody is making the best decision, most informed decision as well. Excellent. So can you talk to us a little bit about our current climate? Not only with, obviously, COVID has done some things and different other impacts, but can you kind of tell us where we're at now?
Well, you can talk all day on the impacts of this.
Yes, you can.
From you know, loss of jobs and everything else. So, but one thing, the current climate right now in just the mortgage business is that the rates are at historic lows on 30 all the way down to 10-year notes. FHA conventional, you look at anything and they're historically low. As far as back to your question on COVID-19 in this business, well, with people working from home, with banks that may be open, may not be open, you've got to work around those things.
Yeah.
We've had the PPP loans that are coming off now, and we're seeing as the country opens back up, and we're going to see how this affects in this second stage of COVID-19. And so we're still in that gray area. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
Sports, all the way from sports to business and everything else.
Nobody knows. Yeah.
So we just make the best decision we can as of that week.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. Because it does change weekly.
It does
daily.
Change. It does. But one of the things that if people have not looked at their financial portfolio on their mortgage, you know, a couple things that existing homeowners want to look at would be if they're on a 30-year note, they've had that house for 5 years, they've got 25 years left. Their goal, and I preach this with all my first-time home buyers or whoever buys a house, is to get to a 15 or 10-year note as fast as possible.
Right.
The reason for that, and just a little example, if you have $1,000 house payment and you bought a house 5 years ago on a 30-year note, you got 25 years left. You refinance to a 15, you knock 10 years off, $1,000 a month, knocking 10 years off. With 12 months, that's $120,000 you're taking off. You're making payments off of your house.
That's a lot of money.
And those factors go up by the bigger houses and down a little bit for some smaller houses, but it's still a significant amount of money,
I would say.
So my suggestion is look at that, do the math on it, get with your lender, get with your banker, see if it's a decision that you want to make, and help yourself out by going that direction.
Yeah, there have been just a lot of refinances because you just look at the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't really even, yeah, it goes up and down, the interest rates, but I mean, and again, I mean, they are at historic lows, but it's pretty neat on the refinance side because
Right.
there's some people that can really get some paid off pretty quickly if they stick to it. And again, look at those numbers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nope.
Excellent. And I mean, I know at one point during the virus, it was a little bit more difficult to get some of those first-time home buyer loans, such as FHA, USDA, just because investors, I should say. But has that kind of evened out a little bit?
It has. They've been bringing back some of the programs, OFA, the Oklahoma Housing Finance Authority, USDA, first-time home buyers programs. They've all opened back up. So
Good.
We're at full go right now. They've had some overlays on their underwriting. They've got to shock-proof some things. For example, in times when there's been tornadoes or disasters or anything, they got to make sure during that time that houses were not affected right in the middle of that home buy. Right now, we've got a human element with COVID-19, so we have jobs and things like that. So there are some overlays. We've had credit scores are at a premium. It's never been more important to have a good credit score. Can't stress that enough.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at right now. But the programs for first-time home buyers have opened back up.
Good.
They're there, and I think that we're going to see rates low for a while.
Yeah.
I don't see them coming back up. It is a great time for home buyers or renters to look at being home buyers.
Right.
And people who are thinking about, moving up in a house, have another child or two, and need to go from a 2 or 3 bedroom to a 3 or 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
There's probably never a better time.
Good. That's good to know. I mean, we've been kind of preaching it as real estate agents because there's also quite a few good deals, or what I would consider some pretty good buys out there still at this time as well. So combo that with some great interest rates, and I think it's a pretty good combination, even given some of the negative things going on. There's a few positives out there if you actually look for them. So
That's right.
Definitely are. Grant, what's one of your favorite things? I know you're involved with a lot of things here in Woodward, but what's one of your favorite things about doing business and living in Northwest Oklahoma?
Well, I'll tell you, being involved in the Chamber of Commerce and banking and industrial foundation and several different things, you meet, and being from here, you know most everybody. But I'll just give you a little example of something. I work for Great Plains Bank. We have around 20 locations across Oklahoma. We have locations in Oklahoma City, and our mortgage home office is in Oklahoma City. So we have Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Dallas, loan officers everywhere. I'm out here in Northwest Oklahoma. And so things happen throughout the purchase process when you have a loan, and then it goes to underwriting, and then it goes through the post-closing and everything else. And so there's always something every once in a while you have to contact a borrower or get something, a follow-up document or something. They always know when they call me that I know my people. They can call other loan officers, and it's like, yeah, we'll try to find that person. Well, they joke with me all the time, and half the time I'm either related to them or that's one of my friends or something like that. So
yeah.
It's
my cousin.
my
I
cousin
know.
or something like that.
Jimmy
So,
Joe over there.
Yeah. So it's again, it goes back to a community banker,
Right.
Community banks, community. Community.
Yeah.
And that's what we are, community lenders. And so you can't get past that.
Yep.
That's where it's at.
I love that. I love that you can walk in if you want to. You can get a cell number or whatever, and give them a call, and they know exactly who you are. And it's not you are example A or client B or
Right.
Of a number. It's a person and a face to the name usually. So
Right.
that's really neat. Is there anything else you want to add, Grant?
I don't believe so. I just think that again, to reiterate, if you're a first-time home buyer, or if you're a renter right now or want to be a home buyer, first-time home buyer, there are those programs out there. Get with your local lender, and boy, get pre-qualified, find out where you're at, and it's not if, it's when you become a home buyer.
Perfect. I think that's an excellent way to end. Grant, thank you so much for being here. You're a busy guy, so I appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you. Appreciate it.